Hi, everyone, and welcome to this December webinar for Utah CLGs. We have some exciting new changes coming to the CLG program, and we wanted to give you this information so that you could take it to your commission or local government before January, so you can start planning for your grant applications. Now, in this webinar, we will be going over the new process for awarding grant funds to CLGs. We'll go over the new grant application instructions, the updated grant application, and then I'll briefly go over eligible grant projects. Now, you have already received the 2023 CLG grant application instructions and a draft of the grant application in the same email with the link to this webinar. If you did not receive those attachments, or if you would like that email forwarded to you, just let me know by emailing me at afranco@utah.gov. You can also see it right there on the screen. All right. So let's get started by looking at these new CLG grant application instructions. And let's talk about the conditions that have prompted these new changes. So first of all, CLG development grants, which are the grants for rehab, they have traditionally been capped at the $10,000 limit because any amount over that would require a preservation covenant attached to the property deed. And the state didn't want to do that, so that's why we've all been limited to that $10,000 amount. And we know that's been a problem for a while. You guys want higher grant amounts for that. And this has become even more apparent with the rising construction costs that we're all seeing. And with all the other grant projects, everything is just more expensive now. So the good news is that in this year, 2022, the National Park Service has raised that limit so that the SHPO can offer higher grant amounts without imposing that preservation covenant requirement. So what does this mean? This means that you can apply for more money for rehab projects under certain conditions, all right? Now, we realize that this will increase the demand for grants for rehab, and we need to make this a fair process for everyone. So we had to change everything. We had to change the CLG grant application process. In the past, we did a first come, first served policy. That is no longer the case. And moving forward, the CLG grant will become a competitive grant process. And all of the grant applications, they're going to be reviewed by a panel that will decide which applications are funded. So what this means is that it's really important for CLGs to carefully plan out your projects and present a strong argument in your applications. And all of this news has been outlined here in these instructions. So I highly recommend reading all these so you know what's ahead for this coming cycle. All right, so forget everything I told you in November. This has all been updated since then. All right, now we will be accepting CLG grant applications, from the first week of January until February 17th. And it's important to note that not all applications are going to receive funding. And some, applications may not receive the full requested grant amount, so we have several new CLGs and we have a lot of newly reactivated ones. So there's more competition for the same amount of funds. All right. So who can apply? Any CLG, with active status and no current grant may apply. And we are happy to discuss projects before January, which many of you have already done. And again, my contact information is there if needed. So the state is going to be awarding funds according to the state funding priorities and stuff. And these are in line with our statewide preservation plan. Rural communities will be given preference and project types in the following order, all right, which are all, again, listed here. They are, first of all, surveys, and then development or rehab projects, National Register nominations, pre-development, preservation planning, and lastly, education and outreach. Now, as a CLG, you can apply for any of these projects, but just know that there are projects that will receive high priority in funding than others. Again, all of this information is outlined here, so it will not be a surprise to you when it's sent to you in January. In addition, we have also provided the rubric metrics that each application is going to be judged by the panel. these are the same questions that the panel will receive when they're looking at each application. You do not have to answer every single one of these questions in a long, descriptive narrative, but you do have to provide enough information so that a person completely unfamiliar with your project and with your CLG, can understand what your project is and why it's a priority for your community. Another part of these instructions, if you scroll down, is Appendix A. This is the same appendix that is located in the CLG grant application, but of course it's been updated. So this describes, in detail what each project is and what information to submit in your grant application. So I highly recommend looking this over. So, for example, for development projects, we are requiring, photos along with your application, and then, pre-construction documentation if that applies. Again, it's all outlined here, and I'll go into more details in a minute. So along with these instructions, you have also received a draft copy of the 2023 CLG grant application. There might be one or two minor adjustments from what you're seeing on this, but it'll be the same application, essentially, that will be emailed to you. Again, it says, please review the grant application instructions before completing the application. And the more details you provide, it will help the panel understand your project and to judge it accordingly. All right. So more detail is always better than less detail. Now, our program is fully digital, so only email applications will be accepted. And again, my contact information is right there on the screen. Other than that, it looks roughly the same to previous years. As you can tell, applicant information, grant request, signature. On the second page, we changed it so you have more room to describe your projects. And again, it says, please refer to the instructions and even like the appendix for what documentation you'll need to provide. And then what else is new is we have this new section on the third page where you need to provide justification for your projects. So as I recommend answering all of these questions to the best of your ability in order to better inform the panel. And then you see the regular budget section down below. That should be new. That shouldn't be anything new. And then Appendix A, the same Appendix A that was in the application instructions is also, again, right here. And it will tell you what information to supply in your application. So for RLS, describe the area of the survey, provide street addresses. Down here in development, submit pre-construction documentation, photos. So all of that same information is in both places. All right, so I'm going to briefly go over the grant projects and then we'll end it there. All right, so let's go back to, we'll go back to these grant instructions and we'll go back to the list of priorities for funding and we'll go in there through order. All right. So first project is survey projects. This can be a reconnaissance level survey, which is, it's a building inventory of a large area of a city or a community. You can also do intensive level survey, which focuses on a single property and it dives into building evolution and who lived there, etc. So for a reconnaissance level survey, depending on how many buildings you want survey, it will affect the costs. So if you want instructions on how to estimate a budget for that, that is located in the appendix. And CLGs may apply up to 12 to 15,000. Again, depending on how big of an area you want surveyed. Feel free to reach out if you want help planning the budget for that or just advice in general. The next project is development, which is the rehabilitation work on National Register listed properties. The property has to be listed on the National Register before you can apply for this project. Now, it's pretty normal for a CLG to have one property be the sole focus of this grant, but you can include up to 2 different properties for this type of project. So, you know, if a CLG has 2 buildings they want to work on, you can include both in their same application. You know, just remember to provide descriptions and justification for both, and, you know, to provide the other documentation, which is outlined here and also in the appendix. All right. If you have properties who do not have pre-construction documentation, such as, you know, studies, structural reports, working drawings, then you can only apply for 10,000. Now, if you have a project with that you already have your studies, your reports, your drawings, then you can apply for a higher grant amount, up to 20K. Now, you will have to submit those pre-construction documents with your application, you know, with your photos. Again, refer to these instructions and to the appendix for this info when you're filling out your applications. All right. Next is National Register nominations. This can be for an individual property. It could be for a historic district or a multiple property submission. If you are applying for a historic district or multiple property, then you can request up to 12 to 15,000, again, depending on its complexity. Talk to us if you want to start planning or talking about that. That's fine. Next, pre-development. These are feasibility studies, working drawings, structural reports, you know, documents that will prepare a property for rehabilitation. And CLGs, you can apply up to 10,000 for this project. Then there is preservation planning, which is administering a local historic preservation program. This can be updating your ordinance. It could be creating design guidelines, other planning documentation, and you can apply up to 10,000 for this project as well. And lastly, education and outreach. There are examples of what kinds of projects that we can fund, which are found in the appendix. So, you know, either scroll down or it's also in the application, or the grant application, just scroll down to the appendix and it's all listed out there. And you can apply up to 10,000 for this one. All right. So those are the updates to the CLG program starting in 2023. Again, you are highly encouraged to read these instructions and start preparing for next month. Feel free to email me or any of our team here with questions. We're happy to talk about this. So thanks for watching, and you can expect to receive the grant application via email on January 2nd. All right. Have a good day, everyone.